Hello. So, over the recent months, I've put a whole bunch of content out about how to double the margin of your B2B, B2G business, largely through investigating, researching, and running through a funnel. So, as I'd said before, 500 people a month in the UK search for bid writing training as a search term in Google. And it's because they think they're not winning deals because they don't know how to write bids effectively, when actually bidding's just the end game. It's a very important aspect of how we grow your businesses, but it's right at the end of a chain of events. So we should be doing a whole bunch of work, as we've talked about before, particularly in market research and business planning, understanding where to fish with who for the right work for our business that's profitable and that our people enjoy. And then once you've got that data, that source code, we can understand what to do in terms of marketing and targeting for that audience that will be the decision makers on those deals. And then think about what we do in terms of key account management and capture of the key pursuits, and then into the bidding phase in the end game. But how do we bake that into your business? We've done some stuff in the past about transformation. I do apologise. I wish there was a less management consulting vibe term. But fundamentally, we do need to bake those best practices into the DNA of your organisation for the long term. You can't just invite me along to do some training for a few days with your people and then expect magic and wonder to happen overnight. We need to take a medium to long term approach in how we bake that in. So, how do we do that with our clients where we deliver transformation? So, first of all, sponsorship. I talk about it a lot, but sponsorship's the biggest defining factor in the growth of businesses like yours. We need your leaders to absolutely back this change and to stop fudging bid no bid decisions and role modeling the wrong behaviors. We need them to role model and support the right behaviors in terms of how we go after this funnel and support that endeavor. We need to communicate effectively about the change that we're going to embark on. So everybody from the C-suite down to admin and reception should understand their role in the growth of the business. Perhaps we have a one-page business plan that's communicated to everyone so they understand their part in it. And that leads nicely into the process. So we should try to map out, at least at a rudimentary level, the approach, the processes we're going to follow, cradle to grave through growth, but ideally through delivery and client satisfaction, and map back to key account management. But certainly we should have an end-to-end process with a RACI, clear roles and responsibilities baked into it, so everybody knows what their role is in growing the business, what part they are being asked to play. And you might bake those roles and responsibilities into their role descriptions and ultimately some of their objectives that they're measured on for their appraisals at the end of the year. So it's, there's a bit of stick in that rather than carrot, but we want it baked into the DNA of our people, so everybody's moving together in lockstep. The business in effect becomes a pyramid scheme. Everybody's objectives should be a subset of their line manager's objectives and be aligned to our process approach that's properly sponsored. And then we'll need to bridge a gap in terms of skills and capability. Almost nobody teaches all of that stuff. We do. We're probably the only business in the world that can. Certainly there's not many, or none that I'm aware of, that can help you understand those processes and performance environment and train all of your people in every aspect of your funnel, from all the way from business planning through to bidding and client experience. And so we can talk to you about that stuff. Do reach out. You may be able to figure it out yourself, and fair enough. But fundamentally, you will need to understand where the competency and skills gaps are in your people, particularly your middleweights up to leadership, but ideally everybody cradle to grave, and train them again and create learning opportunities for them beyond structured learning. How do we place micro learning into their processes so they can learn on the job at point of need? How do we inspire mentoring and coaching of your people in these things so it's really baked in for the long term? It's not about just sending them on a training course once. We need to reinforce the learning over time and those best practices. So sponsorship, communicate well, process roles and responsibilities, and train, develop that capability over time. And that will really help bake in those best practices for the long term and transform the outcomes. of your organization. So hopefully you found that useful. I'll see you on the next one.